Yo, welcome to the Ant-Man channel. It is Tuesday, the 11th of March, 2014, and I'm your host, Ant-Man. And I have an interesting article here, and I found it. I googled it because I was like, I wanted to know if anybody had seen what I saw last night. I happened to be watching TV, which is very rare for me, and I was at my friend's house, and we were watching this History Channel show called Cosmos or something. And wow, I mean, I was just blown away with the propaganda on that show, and I was just, my eyes bugging out, my jaw dropping, while my friends are just like watching this as if it's the most amazing thing in the world. You know, they put a couple of celebrities in front of you to teach you their religion, or whatever you want to call it, because it ain't science. Call it whatever you want, but it ain't science. And they expect you to just eat it all up, because it's like jingling keys in front of a toddler. You know, like you could easily entertain them by doing something like that. You know, like putting celebrities like. But anyways, let me just get into this. Cosmos revives the scientific martyr myth of Giordano Bruno. J.W. Richards, and this is from evolutionnews.org, and this was published yesterday around the evening time. Some of us had speculated that the new Cosmos series, being a reboot of the series by the same name hosted by Carl Sagan in 1980, would be a paean to materialism. The premiere episode, featuring astronomer Neil deGrasse Tyson, laid the speculations to rest. Casey Luskin, our resident speed typist, had already given a detailed blow-by-blow of the episode. So let's focus a bit more on the lengthy discussion of Giordano Bruno. This, more than anything, shows that the series is not just concerned to give a materialist spin to the evidence of science, but to the history of science as well. Yeah, I thought that this was the most... This is who he's talking about, by the way. This is a picture of the guy. Oh man, when science starts to get religious from the secular humanists, this is when you guys should be worrying, because now the scientism or the secular humanists or the whatever have you, evolutionists, whatever you want to call them, when they start to get religious, when they start to pull out the history book, it gets really. If you don't know your church history, if you don't know too much about the Reformation and what happened in the 1600s and in the 16th century and so on, it's hard to distinguish, you know, certain events and whether it matters or not, or what it represents and what time and place it happened. And this is one of those events where you just find something that is kind of taken out of nowhere to kind of give it some type of, like, I can't even think of a word, but it make it kind of seem like something that's rejected. And then they used how, you know, the feudalism and of that day, using Christianity as the reason why science got rejected. And this is where all of that garbage comes from, the whole science versus religion thing. But I'll just keep reading. Many viewers may have been baffled that so much time would be spent on Bruno, an Italian-Dominican friar born in 1548, who was neither a scientist nor credited with any specific or scientific discovery. Why is that? It's because he's the only one with even a passing association with a scientific controversy to be burned at the stake during this period of history. As a result, since the 19th century, when the mythological warfare between science and Christianity was invented, Bruno has been a leading character. So this is where all of this stuff comes from, the whole science versus religion thing. And it's funny that they gear science toward Christianity. If you guys have ever done history, you guys know that all the movements and politically have derived from that kind of brainwash toward other people, and this is what you're seeing here. And you know, a lot of people, you probably heard the word neo-feudalism, or you know, that we're going toward another Dark Ages, Middle Ages. Well, that's kind of what this is. It's scientifically trying to give you reasons to hate other people and try to run them out of your society just to get your way. This is depravity, though. This is not knowing the heart, not knowing that you're a sinner and you're dark. All your desires, even the best things that you do, has sin in it. But there's one problem: Bruno's execution. So troubling as it was, had virtually nothing to do with his Copernican views. He was condemned and burned in 1600, but it was not because he speculated that the Earth rotated around the Sun, along with the other planets. He was condemned because he denied the doctrine of the Trinity, the virgin birth, and transubstantiation, claimed that all would be saved, and taught that there was an infinite swarm of eternal worlds of which ours was only one. The latter idea he got from the ancient materialist philosopher Lucretius. Is it any surprise, then, that as a defrocked Dominican friar denying essential tenets of Catholic doctrine and drawing strength from the closest thing to an atheist is in the Roman world, he might have gotten in trouble with the Inquisition? Yet a documentary series about science and our knowledge of the universe fritters away valuable airtime on this Dominican mystic and heretic, while scarcely mentioning Copernicus, the Polish guy who actually wrote the book proposing a sun-centered universe. The reason is obvious. One, you see that Cosmos is not just good old science education, but rather a glossy multi-million-dollar piece of agitprop for scientific materialism. As such, the biography of Copernicus, whatever its scientific significance, provides precious little fodder of the desired kind. Copernicus died peacefully in his bed just as his book on the revolution of the heavenly spheres was hitting the bookstores, such as there was in 1543, and his most famous disciple Galileo, despite being censored by the Holy See, died peacefully as well. So it falls to Bruno, who had no scientific achievements, to stand as a martyr for science. I'd venture that virtually no one other than scholars of Christian history would even know the name of Giordano or Giordano Bruno, but for the propaganda machine of scientific materialism, which needed a martyr for its meta-narrative. This is very important because, look, dude, nobody's ever died for atheism. Throughout history, dude, and it's funny that the entire sermon that I was listening to at my church on Sunday was about, it was titled Unstoppable, but it's interesting because my pastor's been saying, when you learn what you're willing to die for, that's when you know what that's when you know what you're living for. And it's really true because the Christian will and knows that he's going through, all these types of different things that Christ also suffered on this world, but we also will share in his glory as well. I mean, that's what we're looking at. We are prize fighters in a way. We look toward the prize. We train for battle every day, spiritually, because we don't hate people. We hate sin, like God. Like we inherit those attributes that God does, holy attributes, like hating evil, rebuking it, repenting, all that stuff. Yes. As a Christian, I have never heard of Giordano Bruno. And just like he said, because for a propaganda machine, it would be, they need a martyr. They need somebody for everyone to get all worked up and be like, yeah, well, I stand with him. And this is ignorance, man. I mean, this is what I always say. The atheist is a slob. You don't do your history work because you just kind of just believe experts. You let the experts do all the work. And you think people are just out to look out for you in all of your, to look out for your good, and you think everyone's really like that, and it's not true, man. It's not true at all. So let me just read on. Neil deGrasse Tyson does include a few hedges. While wandering the streets of modern-day Rome, he admits that Bruno wasn't a scientist and that his view of a sun-centered solar system was a lucky guess. And during the animated dramatization of Bruno's sentence, the dark and menacing judge finds the brave Dominican guilty not just of being a Copernican, but of various theological trivialities, which are never otherwise mentioned or explained. Despite these hints At nuance, not one viewer in 1,000 could miss the real message. Christianity has been the enemy of science, and its henchmen tried to kill off the first brave souls who ventured a scientific thought. It's so true. Even the cartoon characters that are playing the Christian, like, clergy, which isn't even, they're not even Christian, they're Catholic. There's a difference. We're not the same religion. But anyway, they say it's Christians, and then the way that they draw it in the show Cosmos, we're like these ugly, dark, hateful, wanting to kill people. They draw us so funny, man. They're trying to gear people toward Christianity, and it's so obvious because when you look at shows like this Cosmos show, it's evolution-centered, and the theology that it's trying to teach you is against Christianity, and it's trying to use a martyr that nobody really even knows because he has no scientific achievements as their center. That's their Stephen. Like Stephen of Cyprus. That's their Stephen of Cyprus. And it's pathetic. You know what I mean? What are you gonna? It's just ridiculous. I don't even know how to even describe this because I didn't even know I was gonna run into this. But I'm telling you, when atheism and evolution and all this starts to get religious on you and starts pulling out theology, and it's so funny too because it had like a little mysticism to it too, like on the cartoon characters. Like, he was all getting persecuted and whatnot, and then he starts to, like, go into outer space for no reason, and he starts flying around spiritually. And it's like, this is just ridiculous, like, it's opening the spiritual eyes of the secular humanist, but in the wrong way. It's not, that's not good. The devil comes as a, he can seem good. He comes as a angel of light, but he's really deceiving you because, this is just... It's what it is. It's exactly what this guy said. It's propaganda. What's most stunning is that the facts about Bruno are not exactly well-kept secrets. The Wikipedia entry for Giordano Bruno gets it more or less right. H.T. Steve Graydonis, I guess that's the guy that wrote it. What that means is that the materialist bias of the producers, editors, and writers of Cosmos is so complete that they couldn't be bothered even to check Wikipedia. One wouldn't want to let the facts get in the way of a good propaganda. The irony is that it makes it not so good propaganda. Well, no, that's very obvious. That's an obvious characteristic. It's inconsistency because all of these things are lies. They don't add up. They don't measure up to actual historical facts. Because I'm just saying, like I've been saying this today too, like. I'll get on my Facebook and talk to my friends and say, you guys need to study Reformation theology. You guys need to study these things because you need to know about your church fathers. You need to know that these guys were their convictions are inspiring. The things that Martin Luther said, that when he was supposed to recant his writings at the Diet of Worms, and he was scared because it's like everybody who wouldn't be, you're about to be sentenced to death if you don't recant what you wrote about. And he said, I can't recant. My conscience is held captive by the word of God, and that is exactly the sign of a true Christian. You cannot deny Jesus Christ once you're a Christian, no matter what people are going to do to you. This is something that the atheist cannot have because they don't have Christ. They don't know the love of God, and it's that changes you in here and is able to open your eyes to what really goes on around you. But anyways, God bless you guys. Hope you guys were informed and that this was helpful. Have a good day.